And I'm going to be so freaking careful, okay? I feel like 3 dabs and a lot of tapping off should be enough. Hi, it's Nørgaard. So today I'm back with a super fun comparison video. I went to my local store that sells W7 maybe a week ago, and I saw that they had all these new W7 bronzers. And when I saw them, I instantly knew that they were dupes for Benefit's Hoola Bronzers. So I just had to try them. So I got these 3 individual bronzers, and I also got a bronzer palette. And in my collection, I already have the original W7 Honolulu Bronzer. So in today's video, I'm going to compare all of these bronzers to Benefit's Hoola Bronzers. So I have the full-sized original Benefit Hoola. And I also have the Hoola Light in this little face palette. And just for reference, the Benefit Hoola Bronzers, they retail for $30 each. Whereas the W7 Honolulu Bronzers, they retail for £4.95 each. You do get slightly more product with Benefit. With Benefit you get 8 grams and with W7 you get only 6 grams. But still, W7 is of course a lot more inexpensive. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you how all of these different shades apply and how they compare to the 2 Benefit bronzers that I do own. So let's just get right into it. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and you can also click the bell to get post notifications. And now without further ado, let's get right into it. So these are the 3 new bronzers from W7 that I'm mainly going to focus on today. Apparently they also have a 4th color, which apparently is a kind of caramel color. I did not get that one because it was not available at my store, but I do have the other 3, and I do also have the original Honolulu bronzer by W7. And finally I also got this Honolulu palette. So it's called the Honolulu Silhouette Bronze and Contour Palette, and it comes with 4 colors and a mirror. And I'm going to compare these bronzers to Benefit's Hoola Bronzers. I have Hoola Light and the Hoola Original. So I'm going to start out with Hoola Light. As you can see, it is extremely pale. It is a very light bronzer. This will work for anyone with pale skin. If you are any darker than pale, I would not recommend it. It's not going to show up. But if you're super pale like me, it will definitely work. And the dupe for Hoola Light is W7's Honolulu Sunlight. So it looks like this. So if we compare them side by side, they do look a little bit different. I feel like W7 looks slightly darker. And I did do swatches, so I'm going to show that on the screen as well. But of course, we're going to test them out on the actual face. So I'm going to apply W7 over here and Benefit over here. So I'm starting out with W7. And you can see it does show up on pale skin. And what I really like about it is the fact that it's very foolproof. Because it is so light, it's hard to go overboard and it's hard to apply too much. So if you're a beginner, this is definitely great. And this is actually my first time using this particular bronzer, the W7 one. But so far it works well. It is a bit powdery though. It has a lot of kickback. It's not horrible, but it's just something I thought I would mention. But it looks very nice. Looks very natural. Blends easily, applies well. You can see it actually does something on the face, even though it might look like very pale. So this is Hoola Light. Again, you can see it does show up. So even though it looks like this in the pan, you can see the difference. Like it shows up differently than what it looks. Because this, when you compare it to my hand, it almost looks the same color as my hand. But then when I get it on my cheeks, you can see it actually does a little bit of bronzing action, a little bit of contour action. And Benefit one is a lot less powdery. And the Benefit one applies well, it blends well, looks good. When I swatched these 2 colors, I feel like they looked a little bit different in the swatches. But on the face, they look very similar. I feel like the W7 one might be a little bit more neutral. The Benefit one looks a little bit more like bronzy and warm to me. I also quickly wanted to show you that there is this very light bronzer in the Honolulu Palette as well. I have worn this out before, tested it out before. It works a lot like these two products. It's light, it's matte, it's kind of foolproof, beginner friendly. It doesn't look exactly like the Benefit one or the W7 one, the single one, but it is very, very close. So next up we're going to compare the OGs. So we have Hoola by Benefit and Honolulu by W7. So when you compare them in the box, they look very similar. I feel like the W7 one looks a little bit more shimmery, but in the swatches and on the face, I feel like the amount of shimmer is the same. They're both almost matte. They have the tiniest bit of a satin or like a skin texture finish, but they are as good as matte. So these two bronzers I'm going to apply along the cheekbones again, but this time I'm going to be more precise. So all the W7 bronzers, they come with this little brush. The Benefit bronzers also come with this kind of brush, but unfortunately I don't have mine anymore. So I'm just going to use two W7 ones and we're just going to really sculpt out the cheeks. So we go right in here. I'm trying to not apply too much since I am pretty fair and I'm already wearing some bronzer. Also, these brushes that you get with this W7 bronzers, they're pretty good. They're very soft, you know, they work pretty well. They're definitely usable. It's not the kind of brush where you just immediately throw it away like, you know, the sponge tip applicators in eyeshadow palettes, and you can kind of wiggle it up and down to kind of blend out the line. So you can see that really added some contour and you can just kind of blend it out. Then Benefit right in here. Again, I have to be careful to not apply too much, and I blend it out. Again, they are super similar in the way they apply, the color, the tone, the way they blend out, but I feel like the Benefit is slightly more bronzy. I don't know if you guys can tell what I mean, but I feel like this side is more orangey and bronzy and this one is a little more neutral. Also, I will say I feel like the Benefit one blends out maybe just a tiny bit faster and easier. It's not a huge difference, but I feel like there is a little difference there. So if we go back to the W7 Honolulu Palette, the dupe for the Benefit Hoola would be this one up here. When you look at them side by side, they don't look that similar. The W7 one looks lighter and more cool toned, and the Benefit one is darker and more bronzy and warm toned. But in the swatches and on the face, they apply super similar. So if you want to try out a bunch of different bronzers, I think this palette is a good option. Now across my forehead, I'm going to use the Glowy Bronzer. So this is the same as the original Honolulu, it just has shimmer to it. So you can see when we compare them side by side, they look super similar in the pans. But in the swatches, this one is definitely a lot more glowy, a lot more shimmery. So we're going to test it out now. I have not tried it before. So I'm trying to be careful and not apply too much because it is a bit dark, you know. And this one also has a lot of kickback, a lot of fallout. It's a very nice color, I think. I can definitely work with it, but I do have to be a little bit careful because I am so pale. So it can easily, you know, be too much. But so far it looks very nice. It's not glittery and it's not like highlighter shiny. It looks like a nice, like almost a satiny bronzer. It looks very nice, I think. And I love a little glow around the forehead. I usually stick to matte bronzers on my cheeks because I have texture on my cheeks, but on the forehead I like a little glow. So I actually like that a lot. It blended out nicely, has a nice color, nice tone. And I think Benefit is supposed to have a glowy version of Hoola as well. I don't own it, so I can't compare this one to it. But that is what it's supposed to be duping. And by the way, there is no dupe for the Glowy Bronzer in here. All four of these shades are matte. Now the last one I have to show you is the Honolulu Sunlight. So this is the deepest one out of the bunch. As you can see, it's very deep. I'm going to try and apply this on my skin. I'll have to be very careful because, you know, it's super duper dark. And again, just for reference, you can see that the Sunlight color looks a lot like the darkest color in the Honolulu palette. So if you want to get all four matte bronzer options, you can definitely try out this palette. This palette is very similar to all the individual bronzers. However, they are not exactly the same, so if you, like me, like to try out a bunch of things, you can get the palette and the individuals, and they will all be slightly different. Also, I would like to say that the texture on these is great. It's like super velvety. It feels amazing when you touch the product. It feels luxurious. The Benefit bronzers, they also feel velvet, but they feel less thick. So I'm not saying that either texture is better than the other. I don't think just because this feels better that it's necessarily a better formula. But I was just noticing when I was doing my swatches that this just feels incredible to touch. But anyways, enough talking. I'm going to attempt to use this along my jawline. And I'm going to be so freaking careful, okay? I feel like 3 dabs and a lot of tapping off should be enough. And then I just go right down here and out. Okay, that's not so bad. I don't know if this would be like my everyday bronzer because I have to be so careful with it, but I can definitely make it work. With most bronzers, even if they are pretty dark, most of the time you can make them work if you have a lighter skin, because bronzers are not the same as, you know, eyeshadows. With eyeshadows, you want them to have the pigment and you want to have it instantly, but with bronzers, a lot of bronzers are made to be buildable and, you know, blendable. So oftentimes you will be able to blend out your bronzers even if they look extremely dark in the pan. To finish off my look, I'm going to use a little bit of the more caramel toned bronzer on my nose and into the creases of my eyes, just so we try out all the tones, you know. And this palette is also pretty powdery. The texture feels very similar to the individuals from W7. And this is what the more caramel golden toned bronzer looks like on the nose. I don't think I would usually apply this tone on the nose. I would more go for the outer perimeter, but it still works. And I'm just bringing a little bit into the crease. Remember, you can always use your bronzers as eyeshadows. So this bronzing palette can double as an eyeshadow palette. And I don't like a harsh nose contour, so I'm just going to blend this out. So that's it. That's all the bronzers tested out. I definitely feel like these are great dupes. If you're looking for cheap alternatives to the different Benefit Hoola bronzers, I feel like these are excellent. I'm going to pop on a little blush just to finish off my look. And yeah, I would just highly recommend these bronzers. W7 definitely did it again. I feel like when I'm looking at one side to the next, I feel like the Benefit one might have blended out a little bit more smoothly, a little bit faster. But taking the price into consideration, I feel like these are definitely excellent dupes. The packaging is super cute, the aesthetic is super cute, it's super similar to Benefit's aesthetic. So I would just highly recommend them. So if you like this comparison video, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And you can also click on the bell to get post notifications. And that's all. So I will see you in my next video. So take care and bye bye.
Lego. It's the original Batman.